So Stephen King has had probably almost all of his books be adapted into films or TV series, and today I'm going to count down my top 10 favourite Stephen King adaptations. Now, I haven't seen nearly all of them, but I've seen plenty, and this list was quite hard to compile, just because of how many good ones there really are. And there are a few good movies that are going to be left out of this list. They're like fan favourites, so that's just a heads up. Anyway, this is my opinion, let's just get into it. At number 10, we have a duo of movies. That's It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. Now, I decided to put these both together because they're both adaptations of the same novel. Chapter 1 covers the first half, Chapter 2 covers the second. That's basically how it works. I just don't think it'd make sense to count them separately. Now, there was originally a miniseries back in the 1990s, and it was okay. It had Tim Curry as Pennywise, and he was phenomenal, but he was the only thing that really held that miniseries together. But I think these two movies were a lot better. They just felt more like the book to me, and especially It Chapter 2 is fantastic. Chapter 1 is obviously really good, but I just felt like Chapter 2 was more of an adventure, and Chapter 2 was received quite badly, which really pisses me off because to me it was a better movie than the first. So I like it when cars drive by themselves and run people over. That's what Christine's all about. Now, it is a lot more than just that. It's basically about a teenager going insane at the hands of this car who was named Christine. I thought the movie did a bang-up job at adapting the book. Even though the book was massive, the movie cut as many corners as it could without ridding the story entirely, and I'm impressed by that. It has some great acting, some brilliant cinematography, a great score, and of course, a self-driving car. It's probably the most fun movie that I've ever watched. If I'm not sure what to watch, chances are that I'll more than likely just go back to Christine. And even the parts without the self-driving car chase scenes. They're so good because of the actors and how seriously they take their roles, while still maintaining a fun and enjoyable tone the whole way through. This is a really good movie. At number 8, Geralds Game. Now, I don't own this movie physically. It's a Netflix movie and it's yet to be released on Blu-ray, so yeah. It was directed by Mike Flanagan and he made a movie based off of Stephen King's book, obviously, that was considered unfilmable due to its explicit nature and insane goriness. But Mike Flanagan did it because he's a genius. Simple as that. It's practically all set in the one location and it revolves around a woman who got handcuffed to her bed by her husband with a weird rape fantasy. Then he got too excited and dropped dead. Now she is trapped. It ends up being a brilliant look into the human brain and how the mind copes with such stressful and intense situations, and it is definitely one of the best films on Netflix. Now, of course this one had to be here. It's the Shawshank Redemption, what did you expect? It's about an innocent man who is wrongly imprisoned, and it's essentially a never give up story. It's sad and pessimistic, but yet also so very happy and optimistic if we look from innocent inmate Andy Dufresne's perspective. This movie held the highest rating on IMDb for any movie ever for a while, and while it may have been a box office flop originally, it's now turned into a true life-changing movie that everyone needs to see because of how powerful it is. Okay, now I'm not saying that this cheap budget 70s miniseries is a more polished film than Shawshank, because it's not. But I have special fondness for it that I don't think I'll ever lose. This 3-hour long miniseries is based off of the classic vampire novel, and it does a really, really good job of being an epic film. Yes, I said that. This film shows you around the town of Salem's Lot in glorious 4x3, lets you know the town's residents, and then the slowly looming threat of the vampires builds, and then explodes into a horrific series of events that you won't be forgetting anytime soon. Even though looking back over 40 years later, you can notice production flaws, such as some makeup inconsistencies, it's still a very classic film and you have to look hard to find these issues. Jump scares are effectively used, great actors are in play, the soundtrack is creepy as all hell, and I can guarantee that you'll be surprised by how scary this movie can get. The Dead Zone from 1983 is a near perfect adaptation. It holds the bulk of the novel together while actually adding a few new things here and there. This movie succeeds at being a romantic, tragedy, horror, sci-fi film. Just think about that for a second. Christopher Walken is the heart and soul of this movie, playing a man who has contracted supernatural powers after suffering a coma from a car accident. And although it's one of Stephen King's saddest tales, it doesn't stop it from being an intriguing and exciting film. And Now for our second run of Mike Flanagan. He did the incredible Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to The Shining. This is another movie that feels epic too. The director's cut I have takes 3 hours of getting to know characters, then connecting them through The Shining, and then combating them for one big motherfucking battle. This movie does so much right, including great actors, practical and digital effects, and of course rebuilds a lot of the set from The Shining and gets your nostalgia pencil kooky. Mike Flanagan is the only director on this list who appears twice, and he deserves it too. I cannot wait for what else he has in store for us, especially Stephen King adaptations. Now we're getting to the movies that are almost better than the novel. Misery, for the most part, stars two characters in one room. It's one of the more simple Stephen King stories. Basically, an author gets into a car accident, only to be saved by his #1 fan, to soon realise that he is her prisoner. And that's all there really is to it, but that leads to an incredible display of mind games, anger, pain, and of course, terror. Kathy Bates plays the deranged Annie Wilkes, who is probably the scariest female in a Stephen King story that I can think of, and my god does she bring her to life. Both the actors are great in these roles, and this is one movie that doesn't need a remake. Movies like Salem's Lot and maybe even Cujo do feel slightly dated, but this one stands the test of time, and it does really well at that too. Plus, it has single-handedly one of the most terrifying scenes in a movie that I have ever seen. So don't say you weren't warned. So this is one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite films actually. Carrie. This is another one that's also almost better than the novel. I won't say that it is, but I'll just say that it's equal. It's one of the most haunting films ever, due to a good portion of it being horrifically realistic. Now, there are telekinetic powers involved, which obviously can't happen, but the bullying and abusive sides can. This movie is more of a drama for the most part, before shit erupts and it turns extremely chilling. The way that it's shot feels like a Hitchcock movie to me, so props to Brian De Palma for achieving that. Now, let's get to my #1 favourite Stephen King adaptation, and my favourite movie ever for that matter. I can see a lot of people disagreeing with me on this, but my #1 pick is The Shining. Now, a lot of Stephen King fans in particular seem to hate this movie, just because Stephen King himself hates it, but it is just incredible. It is so much better than the book, so much more tightly paced than the book, has Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall in two standout performances that should be studied by anyone who wants to learn how to convey real emotion, and we have Stanley Kubrick behind the camera. What more could you ask for? Now, Stanley Kubrick was a terrible person, we can all agree on that, but my god do his horrible techniques work when creating films. There is nothing about this film that I don't like. The camera work, the acting, the score, some of the scariest scenes horror films have ever seen, and of course, the psychological aspect to it. You don't need much gore or blood than guts here because of how mind-fucking this movie is, and it's a mindfuck because it doesn't have any plot holes at all. I can't begin to describe how insane this must have been to undertake, and then to have hardly any flaws at the final product. Everybody just needs to see this movie, whether you like horror or not, because it's just that good. Okay, I'm all done for today. And yes, there was no Green Mile, no Cujo, no Stand By Me. I just couldn't fit them all on here. And if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to hit the bell icon. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button. It would really mean a lot to me. I mean, I'm in bad shape. I've only got an acre block. And please hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell. If you want notified only personally or occasionally, you can change the settings if you want to do it in there. But please make sure to hit the subscribe. Please make sure to hit the like button because I need to feed my dog food. Just make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Go check out my other content